Marcus Hale walked into his own kitchen and felt his heart stop. Naomi, his wife, was crumpled on the floor, her arm bent at a sickening angle, twisted like a snapped branch. The man who had done this wasn't a thug off the street. No, he'd been dressed in sharp uniforms that looked official. Badge, patch, the whole show. Fake HOA enforcement, he called himself. And his message couldn't have been clearer. Shut your mouth about the money. Or else. Naomi wasn't the type to let things slide. She had been a prosecutor once. These days, she ran a legal blog that had blown up over the years. 1 million followers, people hanging on her every post about consumer rights and corruption. She was sharp, relentless, and when she smelled something rotten, she dug until she found the truth. That's exactly what happened with their HOA. Out of nowhere, the fees jumped 400%. Imagine opening your bill and seeing it leap from $200 to $800. Landscaping, they said. Community improvements, they claimed. But what on earth could justify millions of dollars being poured into a couple flower beds and a sprinkler system? Naomi's inbox had started overflowing with neighbors who were furious but too scared to speak up. So she did what she did best. She dug in, and what she found didn't add up. The numbers stank, the invoices were bloated, and it all pointed to something bigger than sloppy bookkeeping. The HOA president, Claudia Mercer, was the queen of suburbia, always polished, always playing the role of the perfect widow hosting charity luncheons. But behind that smile was steel. Question her, and you weren't just challenging her leadership, you were disrupting community harmony. That didn't stop Naomi. She wrote a blog post. Where did $3.8 million go? And it exploded overnight. 500,000 views in a day. Neighbors shared it. Strangers across the country chimed in with their own HOA horror stories. It was like striking oil, only instead of riches, Naomi tapped into a vein of corruption no one wanted to talk about. That's when Claudia stopped pretending. First came the cease and desist letters, then fake audits, even anonymous threats. And when none of that worked, she sent muscle. Marcus would never forget the sound, bones snapping, Naomi gasping in shock, and just like that, their quiet suburban life was shattered. But Claudia had no idea what she'd unleashed, because breaking Naomi's arm wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. That Tuesday morning in Silverwood Heights started like any other. Marcus was in the garage, tightening bolts on his truck, when Naomi heard a knock at the door. The security camera showed a man in uniform, clipboard in hand, badge glinting in the sunlight. To anyone else, he looked like a routine code inspector. Shirt tucked in, hair cropped short, laminated ID clipped neatly to his vest. Professional. Harmless. But the moment Naomi cracked open the door, that illusion shattered. Victor Kane, the man introduced himself smoothly, holding up a laminated card. Senior Community Enforcement Officer. I'm here on behalf of the board. You're in violation of community harmony regulations. He waved a stack of papers like they carried the weight of law. Specifically, your online postings have created disruption within the neighborhood. Naomi's brow arched. Blogging is not a violation of any statute, she replied firmly. Which regulation exactly are you claiming I've broken? Victor's professional smile didn't falter, but there was a cold edge to his eyes. Your blog is undermining order. I suggest you comply before this escalates. Naomi folded her arms. Then let me speak to your supervisor. I'll need their direct contact information. Victor's jaw tightened. That's not how this works, ma'am. Really? Naomi pressed. Because I've practiced law, and I know my rights. So here's what's going to happen. She raised her phone deliberately. I'm going to photograph your credentials, then I'll verify them with the proper municipal authority. The shift was instant. His answers grew clipped, his tone harder, the fake charm falling away. You don't want to do that, Victor said, his voice dropping low. Naomi's reply was steady, uncompromising. I absolutely do. If you're legitimate, you have nothing to fear from transparency. His smile vanished entirely. Then the mask dropped. Without warning, Victor shoved past her into the kitchen. His voice turned steel hard. You've been warned once. Next time, listen. Before Naomi could react, he seized her right arm in both hands and twisted sharply. Have you ever seen someone go so far as to break a woman's arm just to keep her silent? What would you do if it happened in your own home? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe no one should get away with violence and corruption, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because the fight for justice starts by telling these stories. The sound made Marcus's blood run cold even from the garage, the snap of bone like a branch breaking underfoot. Naomi's gasp wasn't a scream, it was the hollow, breathless sound of someone realizing they were in real danger. Marcus dropped his tools and sprinted inside. By the time he reached the kitchen, Naomi was crumpled on the floor, her arm bent grotesquely, her face pale with shock. Victor stood over her, calm, like it was all in a day's work. "That's your warning," he said, his tone flat and professional. "Keep quiet about the HOA, or next time, it won't just be your arm." With that, he strode out the front door as if nothing had happened. In his haste, he dropped the fake badge onto the tile floor, plastic and cheap, but convincing enough at a glance. It was the first clue that none of this was legitimate. At the hospital, doctors confirmed what Marcus already knew. Naomi's arm had been deliberately broken, a calculated injury designed for pain and long recovery. As Marcus stood in that sterile corridor, listening to Naomi whisper through clenched teeth, "This wasn't random. They wanted me to stop." He realized the police weren't going to save them. That's when Marcus made the call to his cousin, Leon Tank Alvarez. And when Leon answered with the roar of motorcycles behind him, Marcus knew the HOA had just made the worst mistake of their lives. "Tank," he said, using his cousin's road name. "They sent fake HOA cops. They broke Naomi's arm. I need help the courts can't give." On the other end of the line, the classic rock in the background stopped. Then came Leon's voice, ice cold, commanding. "Say no more, little cousin. Nobody hurts family. We're rolling out now." 20 minutes later, the roar of Harley Davidsons shook the hospital parking lot. Visitors froze, nurses stared, and 12 steel serpents strode inside like they owned the place. At the front was Leon Tank Alvarez, towering, scarred, carrying the authority of his detective past. When he saw Naomi lying broken in bed, his jaw tightened. He picked up the fake badge Victor had dropped, studying it with practiced eyes. "This wasn't random," Leon said. "This was a hired job. Someone paid to hurt her." Behind him came his younger brother, Julian Blade Alvarez, clean cut, laptop in hand, the club's secret weapon. "Give me an hour," he said, already hacking into the hospital's security feed. Minutes later, footage of Victor Kane filled the screen. Facial recognition matched, former military contractor, enforcer for hire. Then Julian traced the payment, $25,000 in crypto. The name on the account made the room go silent. Claudia Mercer. The room fell silent when Julian's screen lit up with a name, Claudia Mercer. The queen of suburban respectability had paid Victor Kane $25,000 to hurt Naomi. Julian dug deeper. Suspicious transfers, shell companies, and then a chilling link. "Remember Ethan Cross?" he asked. Marcus's stomach sank. The journalist who vanished 18 months earlier had last pinged right outside Claudia's property. His unfinished article? HOA corruption, the suburban money laundering scheme. Leon's expression hardened. She didn't just steal, she killed to keep it quiet. Then came Julian's jackpot, Victor's recordings. First, Claudia ordering Naomi's arm broken. Then her panicked voice admitting she had eliminated Ethan before he could destroy everything. Naomi covered her mouth, eyes shining with tears. "Proof," she whispered. "Proof Ethan didn't die for nothing." But Leon wasn't satisfied with hidden files. "We need her to confess in public, somewhere tied to Ethan." Julian pulled up the Rose Garden Project, the $3.8 million cover-up where soil scans showed anomalies. That wasn't just landscaping. Ethan was buried there. And that would be where Claudia fell. A few days later, Julian tracked Victor's signal late one night. "Got him," he said. "Gas station downtown. Alone." Minutes later, the steel serpents thundered in, surrounding Victor before he even had time to blink. Engines idled, chrome gleamed, and leather-clad bikers stared him down. Leon stepped off his bike, towering over him. His voice was quiet but lethal. "You broke my cousin's wife's arm. That's not something we forget, and it's not something we forgive." Victor's bravado cracked. Hands half raised, he stammered, "I was just on a job. Claudia hired me. I only did what I was told." Leon leaned closer. "Then you're going to help us. Every recording, every receipt. Either you flip now or you go down with her." Victor swallowed hard, then nodded. "Fine. I'll give you what you need. Just don't let her bury me next." And just like that, the enforcer became the informant. unwittingly recording his own betrayal of Claudia Mercer. The plan came together in days. Julian uncovered Claudia's paranoia over the rose garden. Soil scans and late-night calls confirmed it wasn't landscaping. It was a grave. Leon knew the courts couldn't touch her. They needed a confession no lawyer could bury. That's where Victor came in. Instead of crushing him, they used him as bait. He'd call Claudia, claim the bikers were closing in, and push her to move Ethan's body. The Steel Serpents handled the rest. Julian hid cameras, tested a live stream, and sent it to secure servers. If anything happened, the truth would still surface. It was elegant. Lure Claudia to the garden, record her own words, and time it so the police arrived before she could escape. From the shadows, Marcus watched her approach with shovel in hand. She thought she was covering her tracks. In reality, she was walking straight into her downfall while the world watched live. Midnight at the Rose Garden felt less like suburbia and more like a battlefield. The Steel Serpents waited in the shadows, cameras live streaming as Claudia arrived, disheveled, clutching a duffel and a shovel. Victor played his role. "We have to move him now," he urged. Claudia cracked instantly. "How could they know about Ethan? I buried him deep, lime, roses, everything." Her words spilled into confession. Killing Ethan Cross, embezzling millions, ordering Naomi's assault, and tens of thousands watched it live. Then she pulled a pistol. "If I'm going down, I'm taking everyone with me." Before she could fire, Leon's flashbang went off. The blast disoriented her, sending her shot wide. In seconds, Leon had her face down, wrists zip-tied, gun kicked away. Sirens wailed as police rolled in, perfectly timed. Dragged off screaming, Claudia's reign ended. Naomi arrived, cast on her arm, fire in her eyes. She wheeled up to Claudia and said, clear for every camera, "You broke my arm to silence me. Instead, you made me famous. And now the whole world knows what you are." With that, Claudia Mercer's empire collapsed. 6 months later, Claudia Mercer sat in a federal courtroom, no longer the polished president in pearls, but an inmate in an orange jumpsuit and shackles. The trial drew national headlines, partly because Julian's live stream had captured her confession in real time, but mostly because the case exposed how deep HOA corruption could run. The evidence was overwhelming. Victor Kane testified under oath, backed by his recordings and financial records. Forensic teams confirmed Ethan Cross's remains had been buried beneath the rose garden. Naomi herself testified, arms still stiff in its cast, recounting the day Claudia sent muscle to break her bones. When the verdict came, the judge's words were final and devastating. Life in prison without parole for Ethan's murder, plus decades more for embezzlement, assault, conspiracy, and fraud. Millions in restitution were seized from her shell companies and returned to the neighborhoods she drained dry. Her perfect facade was gone. Neighbors who once admired her now whispered her name like a curse. The queen of suburban order was just another inmate in a cold federal cell, left to replay her downfall every time she saw Naomi's face on TV. If you believe killers like Claudia should never escape justice, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because standing up to corruption and violence starts with telling these stories.